So tonight, investigators say an offshoot of the violent Tren de Aragua gang is responsible for a turf war across Houston.
America, the FBI just pulled off the largest takedown of anti-Tren gang members in U.S. history. 16 Venezuelan criminals running a $40 million drug and weapons trafficking operation right in Houston. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Anti-Tren is made up of the defectors from the notorious Tren de Aragua cartel, who are now in a bloody turf war with their former gang. This comes as the Trump administration has arrested over 2,700 TdA members nationwide, forcing these cartels to literally fight each other for survival.
Today marked the 2,711th arrest in our country of TdA members, just TdA. Everyone in this room agrees they are one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story shows how Trump's maximum pressure campaign is literally tearing these Venezuelan gangs apart from the inside. When you arrest 2,700 plus cartel members, the survivors start fighting each other for territory, and that is exactly what's happening in Houston. Let me break down what Anti-Tren is, because it's kind of fascinating. According to federal prosecutors, Anti-Tren is a criminal organization almost exclusively comprised of former members and associates of Tren de Aragua. These are Venezuelan criminals who are defectors from TdA and are now at war with their former gang.
The U.S. Attorney's Office announcing charges against 16 anti-Tren members for cocaine and gun trafficking. All of them living in Houston, according to the Department of Justice, and oftentimes in a turf war with TdA.
Special Agent Douglas Williams explained the scope. These arrests are the largest takedown of the suspected anti-Tren members and associates by the FBI so far, and they happened right in Houston. These individuals are accused of engaging in a turf war with TdA members and carrying out numerous violent crimes throughout the city.
What's called the Anti-Tren gang. So far, most of these men made their initial appearances here at the federal courthouse this afternoon. Their mission, feds say, to protect their turf and power through violent crime. 16
men were arrested and all living in Houston, and most were in the U.S. illegally, according to the FBI. They face federal charges, including conspiracy to traffic cocaine and a range of weapons violations. This isn't small-time street crime. This is organized transnational criminal activity. Speaking of criminal organizations that defect and turn on each other when the pressure gets too intense, that is exactly what is happening in the Medicare industry. When seniors start to get wise to predatory insurance tactics, these companies just rebrand themselves and keep exploiting people under different names. Look, these anti-Tren criminals broke away from TdA because they wanted to run their own scam operation without sharing profits. Medicare insurance companies do the same thing. They create multiple brands and subsidiaries, so when one gets exposed for ripping off seniors, they just switch to another name and keep the scam going. That's why Chapter is so important. Just like the FBI tracks these criminal organizations, no matter what they call themselves, Chapter tracks Medicare plans no matter how they try to disguise their true costs and limitations. Chapter's licensed advisors know all the tricks these insurance companies use, the bait and switch tactics, the hidden fees, the coverage gaps that they don't tell you about. They're like having your own personal FBI agent investigating Medicare fraud before it happens to you. Here's the difference. These Venezuelan gangs fight each other over drug territory. Medicare companies fight each other over senior customers, but Chapter fights for seniors against them all. Chapter's experts don't get paid commission, so they have zero incentive to steer you towards plans that benefit insurance companies instead of you. They're the only ones actually on your side in this war. If you're 65 or approaching Medicare eligibility, don't let predatory companies run their scams on you. Get somebody who knows how to fight back. Check out Chapter at askchapter.org/Tyson or call 270-467-0614. When everyone else is running scams, you need somebody actually fighting for you. Now, speaking of fighting, let me show you the $40 million drug empire these anti-Tren de factos were running. Here's the scope of this criminal enterprise. Federal authorities say financial activity tied to these anti-Tren operations exceeds over $40 million. Two separate criminal complaints charge 14 members with conspiracy to distribute more than 5 kilograms grams of cocaine.
And the feds say that most of these suspects are here in the U.S. illegally.
The allegations state that these anti-Tren groups agreed to transport kilogram quantities of cocaine for $15,000 per load, with a half paid in advance. We're talking about a sophisticated drug trafficking operation with established pricing and a payment structure. If convicted of these drug charges, these defendants face life in prison and potentially $10 million in fines. 5 of them also face separate firearm charges that could add an additional 15 years in prison. But the drug trafficking is just part of the story. This anti-Tren and TDA turf war turned deadly at the Latinas Sports Bar shooting in March 2025, where 6 people were wounded. Jose Miguel Brasino, a 25-year-old Venezuelan national, is charged with opening fire inside the bar. Federal prosecutors say Brasino shot inside the bar doorway and then discarded the firearm. This wasn't random violence. This was part of the organized turf war between anti-Tren and TDA factions fighting for control over Houston's criminal underworld. The fact that this mass shooting was directly linked to the gang wars shows how these Venezuelan criminal organizations are bringing their violence into American communities. 6 innocent people were wounded because of a turf war between foreign criminals.
He's a Venezuelan national currently on an ICE hold. Briseño is charged with aggravated assault in connection to a mass shooting.
And a second man is on the run.
These surveillance photos captured 2 men at the scene of the crime before a mass shooting erupted at the Latinas Sports Bar.
Brasina faces up to 15 years in prison with a maximum $250,000 fine if convicted. But the real question is, why was he allowed to remain in the United States illegally in the first place? Now let's put this anti-Tren bust in a broader context of Trump's war against the Venezuelan gang. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that over 2,700 TDA members have been arrested nationwide since Trump took office.
Finding and arresting members of the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua has been a top priority for Donald Trump's White House. With new numbers, Attorney General Pam Bondi says back up those efforts.
Pam Bondi didn't mince any words about the TDA. Everyone in this room agrees they're one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world. The fact that we arrested over 2,700 members shows the massive scope of the criminal invasion. The pressure from these arrests is literally forcing TDA to splinter and fight amongst themselves. When you arrest that many gang members, the survivors start competing for the remaining territory and resources, which is exactly what we're seeing with anti-Tren.
Today marked the 2,711th arrest in our country of TDA members, just TDA.
The FBI also added TDA leader Giovanni Vicente Masquero Sanero, shout out to my 4-name, last name individuals, to its 10 most wanted fugitive list, showing how serious the Trump administration is taking these threats. Here's what's really driving these results. President Trump designated TDA as a terrorist organization, which gives law enforcement much broader tools to go after them. Borders are Tom Homan explained the strategic thinking behind this particular approach.
When you think of a gang, most Americans think of, back in the day, the Crips, the Blood, local street gangs. These gangs are very sophisticated, like a Fortune 500 company.
Tom Homan continued, I'm not going to be satisfied till every member of TDA is eradicated from this country, along with MS-13 and other violent gangs. This is the kind of leadership we need. Zero tolerance of foreign criminal organization. The terrorist designation allows for faster deportation and gives prosecutors more tools to dismantle these organizations. It's part of Trump's Take Back America initiative that elevates drug traffickers to levels of terrorists. The message to TDA and anti-Tren is clear. You are no longer the hunters. You are the hunted. When you have this kind of pressure from federal law enforcement, criminal organizations start collapsing from within. America, this anti-Tren bust perfectly illustrates how Trump's maximum pressure strategy is working. When you arrest over 2,700 TDA members nationwide, you force the remaining criminals to fight each other for survival. This is exactly what's happening in Houston. The fact that Anti-Tren exists as a separate organization shows that the TDA faction is under pressure. These Venezuelan criminals are so desperate that they're forming breakaway gangs and going to war with their former allies over territory and drug routes. The $40 million drug operation and the Latinas Sports Bar shooting show how dangerous these organizations are to American communities. 6 innocent people were wounded because foreign criminals are fighting turf wars on American soil. But the The 16 arrests in Houston and the 2,700 plus arrests nationwide show that Trump's approach is working. When you designate these groups as terrorists and give law enforcement the tools they need, you can actually dismantle these criminal organizations. The message to other Venezuelan gang members is simple: surrender or face the consequences. We're not going to tolerate foreign criminal organizations bringing their violence to American communities. I'll keep tracking the dismantling of these Venezuelan gangs as Trump's maximum pressure campaign continues. And remember, this is what happens when you have leadership that takes transnational crime seriously. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.